so much for being on a Road Less Traveled podcast today. We are super lucky to have you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
I'm so happy you invited me. It's interesting because we both on the board together, and whole board we never get to meet in person. And it was so nice to finally to meet somebody who I have a meeting with once a month, person,
to like actually connect.
Yeah. And then, like you said, I think we have a lot of similarity and stuff. And, doing a board meeting is not like we get to talk about personal stuff. So it was so to thank you for inviting me. So I feel like I get this opportunity to get to know you also.
Well, it's my pleasure. So I have a couple questions first as it relates to your vocation. So you are an attorney?
Yes.
And you are a surrogacy concierge?
Yes. So I'm a recovery attorney because I've been practicing over 20 years. This is what I went to school for. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I was practicing family law for many, many years, but during the process of doing that, I realized that this is not really aligned with what my purpose is. When I was attorney, because my parents divorced when I was 4, I always felt like I wanted to be a family law attorney so I can have a voice for the children. Because I was that child going back and forth between mom and dad. And I thought I was doing something. But as time goes on, as a year goes by, I start noticing that it wasn't what I was doing anymore. It's almost more like, how are you going to hiding an asset? How we get more money? A lot of it has to do with money. A lot of it has to do with emotional hurt that those people have. So then I started the surrogacy agency because it come back to what I originally wanted, which is helping children. But surrogacy is helping people to have that dream come true, to become a parent and to have children. So I loved it. And then as my surrogacy agency grew over the year, and then I just got super busy, and I just can't do both. So I always tell people, yes, I'm an attorney, but I'm like a recovery attorney. So yeah, my focus is helping people how to have a family or how to create a family.
That's pretty amazing. And do you still practice a little bit here and there?
I do as a consultant. The law by itself, I sold the firm about a month ago. See, it felt like so long ago, even though.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we sold the firm about a month ago. So as you know, when you sell any business, it makes you to stay on just for a few months, just help them to go through the transition. So I'm a consultant right now, but my focus is pretty much surrogacy agency. And, with the app coming out, we have a new apps coming out this week. So it pretty much taking up all my time at this point. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Do you guys have a pretty deep book of business, or you have a pretty deep book of business right now?
So for family law firm, like I said, I've been practicing over 20 years. So it's pretty stable. Surrogacy, I opened it right after I had my son. I'm a single mom, and I have my son.
Oh, okay.
This process assisted with production technology, and this is the reason why I had the firsthand experience how difficult it was, even given the legal background that I had. And this is the reason why I wanted to have an agency myself, so I can help other people who want to be parents, or even people like me, professional women, wanted to be a mom and don't know how to get there, so I can help them navigate this process. So the agency, we had it since 2014. Pretty much after I had my son, I realized how important to have this. So 2014 till now is almost 10 years. And, I realized this type of business is still very old fashioned way. It's kind of like dating, how back in the day, if you can't find anybody, you have a private dating service, and now this all on app. So we come up with an app so people can start finding sperm donor, egg donor, and surrogate online. Yeah.
Okay. Did I hear you say you had your son by surrogate?
Yes, I did, because
amazing.
Thank you. And I think a lot of time when people start doing something, or be passionate about something, is because to try to solve a problem. And most of when I try to solve a problem is because ourself have to go do that, or ourself also wouldn't do that and was trying to find a solution. And for me, that's what happened to me. I had a tumor in my uterus, and I didn't find anyone. I thought I was gonna be like the partner in the law firm, and I was working day and night on every weekend. And by the time I realized, the clock is kicking, what am I gonna do? So my best friend at the time told me to freeze just in case. I'm so glad that she told me to do that. And then, so when I was ready to have my son when I was 35, to realize I had this great-sized tumor in my uterus.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the reason I started the process with surrogacy journey, and to learn more about how many women out there are in the same situation as I am. And it's not just women, especially LGBTQIA community, if they wanted to have family, they need to get the help just like we do. So, yeah.
That's super incredible. I'm actually blown away by this entire kind of thing, because you don't think about it. It's not, if it's not something that you're actively having to deal with, it really isn't, it doesn't necessarily, you're not lying awake thinking about it.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I wouldn't even think about it, be honest with you, until that happened to me, right? So a lot of times we hear story, and it's an empathy that you don't have that fire, that passion for something, unless you have to go through that and to really realize it. And I have a really great girlfriend who was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 28. So when she had her son, she freeze because she was going chemo, and she was like one of my close girlfriend, and she was like, Evie, you should freeze. Not knowing at that time that I had this huge tumor in my uterus. I was like, why? I don't know if I want to have kids. I'm probably going to find my Prince Charming. I was 28. I had the best time of my life, right? And she's like, well, you just don't know. It's like buying life insurance. Guess what? I'm so glad she told me, because by the time I was 32, did I find Prince Charming? No. On power. And then I decided to freeze like she told me to, and people thought I was crazy. Thank God I did that, because by the time I really wanted to have a child, which was like 35, 37, that's when they realized I had this big grapefruit-sized tumor in my uterus.
Gosh.
So, and who knows, by the time I was going to have a child, maybe my egg wasn't even going to be good. Who knows, right? But then when I decided to do so, I'm so glad that I have an freeze. And the girlfriend, who's one of my close girlfriend, who told me to freeze my egg, she passed away 6 years ago. And, forever, I'm so
sorry.
Yeah, because it's not for her, I would never have my son. I would never even start this business who can help many more other women or other couple who wanted to have children. And she ended up adopting a little girl from China. So before she left, one of the things I promised her was I was going to be the guardian for her daughter. And that was me giving back to show my gratitude to her, because
that's incredible.
Her, I have a child of mine, and I'm forever grateful.
So you're a single mom of essentially two, right?
Yeah. Well, she got married. She's married.
Okay.
I'm just a guardian of her daughter, who's now 11-year-old. So it was one of those things that I'm so glad that, and then you doing the podcast, I think is great, because I think a lot of time we don't really know or have the information. But when we listen to podcasts, when somebody talk about a story or somebody share a personal story, and you're like, I can relate to that, or oh wow, that was a good advice. And you never know, that one episode of yours or that one conversation you have with somebody can change somebody's life.
100%.
Yeah, and for me, she changed my life. So yeah.
Well, going through, one of the things that I've talked about a little bit on the podcast is feeling isolated. I imagine that the surrogacy journey feels really isolating, because people are very, what's the right word? they like what they know, and
Yeah.
anything that is outside of what they know is scary or threatening or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And the work that you're doing is so incredibly important. Are you, I mean, obviously your business is thriving, so if you have to pick one or the other, you know, it has to be really good. What are you seeing from like a social perspective? Are you seeing it's not necessarily a vanity thing, right? It's more
Yeah.
like a necessity thing?
And then I'm glad you bring that up because when I A freeze, that's before I discovered I had tumor in my uterus. And I was the
Mm-hmm.
post child of like the fertility clinic because they're like, wow, you're healthy and you want to A freeze. Can we use you as a way trying to attract more other women to do that? And I remember I was
Mm-hmm.
28. I didn't know any better. People would ask me why I A freeze, knowing the fact that I was healthy and I was young. And I was telling the truth. I was like, I don't know if I would want to get married. I don't know if I ever going to find Prince Charming. I work hard. I wanted to get into the partnership trap as a lawyer. And it was on Wall Street Journal. And this is before social media. And there was a bunch of comment on it. And most comment were negative. And the
Mm-hmm.
most interesting part about that was actually from women, not from men. Women were trashing me for doing that. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is for the wealthy people, or if you don't want to have children, then what was your purpose? And then, which is really sad because when they're making statements like that, they don't think about other people's story and think about other women who suffer, like my girlfriend who passed away from breast cancer, severe breast cancer, that can't bury a child, but who desperately want to be a mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you to say, if you can bury a child, then you have, what's the purpose of you being here? You putting to
Mm-hmm.
value women as a whole, that this is the only value we can have. So, you know, I don't really like social media, but in a way, I think social media can also make such a big changes because as you can see,
Mm-hmm.
nowadays everybody encourage women to A free, their sister, their daughter, and it all started because a lot of celebrity was doing it, maybe due to vanity, maybe due whatever reason, we don't know because everybody have this story. But because those celebrity have been doing it and social media now are so powerful, it actually make everybody more accepted of to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a way of empower women because I think when you A freeze, you don't have that biological clock. You don't need, you can choose to be a mom in a way that you choose to be. You don't need to depend on some men just because you want to be a mom, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and and you choose when you want to be a mom. So I think it gives us a lot of power back as a women. So I don't think that it is something that should be scared of. I think that the reason why people would trash me back then, because I was actually pretty angry. I was like, I wanted to tell them when I discovered I have a tumor.
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to go back to Wall Street Journal. I was like, can you do another interview on me so I can tell this girl who trashed me to let them know what happened to my health condition
I
that
need
I
the vindication.
yeah, right. But then I was thinking, you know what? The reason why people hate it or people have such a negative reaction is what you were saying is because people don't know. When people don't know something, when you all know or is something different, it's scary. It's scary even for me, right? Because this is not
Mm-hmm.
something somebody had done before. But then this is also where the power come in because you taking the unknown and you make a story of your own and you think outside the box. So if you can embrace that unknown and be comfortable with that and go for it show your dedication and you know what you want, it's actually really powerful. And I have to say, by going through that journey, it prepared me to be even more stronger advocate for other women. And then
Mm-hmm.
now to me, I'm looking at it, I have even more empathy for somebody who had a hard time with infertility, and now I don't see it as a vanity. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
I would be more sympathetic, I would be more open-minded. It's like, hey, why would you need this? How? And on the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's your body. It's your body.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to that end, and not to get too political, but there's a lot of stuff related to our own body choices right now in the
Yep.
Supreme Court, or
Yep.
in legislation, and how is that impacting this for you?
I think it's just going to make it even more difficult for people who wanted to be parents, and it's going to increase the price, where it's going to make it even harder for people who really wanted to have children to have the solution or a way of doing it, right? Because as many
Mm-hmm.
more they become more tighter with their abortion law or with protection law, more and more people is going to come to stay that is liberal, such as California. So surrogacy costs,
Mm-hmm.
the technology costs have increased dramatically over the year. It's already difficult enough where you have to go through this emotionally. Imagine,
Mm-hmm.
and now it was never cheap to begin with, and then by
Mm-mm.
having this and make it even tighter and nailed it down, and it's almost like you make that accessible even less, which is almost like the most wealthy people can get it. What happened to the rest of the people that truly needed it? And to me, I just think that it's sad. And this is another reason why I'm so passionate about my app, because we are trying to make it more affordable to people. We want people to make the choice. So people who wanted to donate their egg or sperm, they have a platform, they're willing to help. For example,
Mm-hmm.
I have my egg freeze. I have a child now. I'd be more than happy to donate my frozen egg to a couple that would love to have my egg, right? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're interracial marriage and they want somebody who look like the mom or dad, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the money to purchase an A donor. To purchase the egg from an A donor, I would be more than happy to donate mine. But there's no platform for it. Like, where did you go and say, anybody want my egg? There's not a
Right.
supermarket, right? That kind of egg. And then
I
I
mean, and
also
that's
have a lot of
fascinating.
yeah, and then I also have a lot of couple that went through this process and successfully have a child, and then now they
Mm-hmm.
have frozen embryo, and they don't want to waste it because to
Mm-hmm.
them the life this could change somebody's life who really want to have a baby, where they would love to donate for free. Where do they have a platform where they say anybody want this living thing, and it depend on the state.
Mm-hmm.
An embryo in Texas are considered a life, right? Or Alabama is a life. So what are you gonna do with this life where we know that somebody would love to have to raise this life? So
Mm-hmm.
that's my platform come in. Yeah.
I am really kind of fascinated by all of this, because again, it's not something that you think about real readily unless it's something that impacts you, right? And what's kind of going through my mind is people that I know or friends that I have that struggle with this, and then kind of the flip side is the vanity thing, where you were talking about media, social media, so and so had their baby through surrogate and it's because of this or it's because of that. And how cruel we are. Like you were talking about the comments that people made on the Wall Street Journal article. Why is it anybody else's business? Why does that matter? And when we're talking about pricing people out of the market, because we are a more liberal state in California, it's driving all healthcare costs up, and
Yes.
there aren't enough providers.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
how are people who do go through with this, like how does that work insurance wise? Who covers what?
And that's the thing. The insurance
Sorry.
company, most
Mm-hmm.
insurance company doesn't even cover the infertility costs, right? So, in the past couple of years before the pandemic, I've been trying to advocate that with the startup company in Silicon Valley in New York.
Mm-hmm.
One way we encourage employer to cover that is saying that, hey, if you wanted to retain your good employee, especially a female employee,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you can offer them a freezing, benefit,
Mm-hmm.
or offer some kind of
Yeah.
co session, and a lot of female employee would stay, which by doing that I think it empower women, because a lot of time we take the back seat because of biological clock. And then we give birth, and then so we have to take a couple of months off, right? And then so a lot of this higher precision was not given to us because of it. But if we can change the company and saying that, hey, we can keep this great female employee if you just offer them a freezing so then they can continue to work and then they can take them time. It's like a win-win situation for all. So a lot of startup companies doing that. Google does that. Facebook does that. They offer $25,000 for it. I remember Uber does it, but I might want to double check on that. So a lot of companies do offer that. And then I just saying that when people say don't judge somebody by the cover, it's really true because we all have a story. And even if it's somebody who have vanity, for the vanity reason going to that, there's so many more people that really need help. But it's based on one person who make it negative for everybody else who truly needed it.
Which is completely unfair. And everybody's views fall somewhere on a spectrum, right? Even when it comes to like religion, everybody is on a continuum, Yes. And it's amazing how much grace that people will make when it's something that they are suffering with or that they're going through, as opposed to just pushing judgment off on someone else.
Right.
And how much less grace that they're afforded.
And that's the way it is. So like I said, to go back to social media, right? So a lot of time people judge based on what social media said with a statement or whatever. So, I'm not going to criticize all on social media because like I said, there's also have good things come out of it. For example, a-freezing, because now it's so common for people to a-freeze. It's actually a good thing. Encourage more younger people to do that. So,
and that's highly emotional. It's already expensive. People who are struggling to conceive, they already need to go through the doctor's appointments. Then they go through, IUI, IVF. So people are blowing through their life savings.
Yes.
Before, they even get to the idea of surrogacy. Yeah. So, my opinion is that normalizing it just creates more options for people.
Exactly. And I was telling people, having more option is priceless, right? And then a lot of time we felt like we don't have a choice. And then when you feel like you have an option, it actually you make a better decision. So then you can say one right for me or this is not. And like I said, I always think that by doing this, it does not take women as a women power away unless you think that all we have, what make us powerful is just giving birth, which is not.
I have a whole argument against that. But one of the things that has recently come up is that we often feel like we have to choose, right? And like you mentioned, because, pregnancy, doctor's appointments, time off, birth, who, God forbid something go wrong. There's very little protection for miscarriage or anything like that, which is so common. And for some reason, there's so much shame surrounding the idea of childbearing.
Yeah.
It's so discouraging.
Yeah.
Why is that something that you're seeing, like in your clientele, people that feel like they have to choose pregnancy or career?
They feel like the job would not be protected. And then, by the way, miscarriage is very common, but heard about it because the shame that happened, right? The shame that come with it. Because it's actually very normal. I
agree.
Surveys a lot of time before they have their child, they have miscarriage before that. So it's very common, but it's just that people just don't talk about it. And then I think when we, just good influence, just a good way of using social media for good, right? So when you normalize it, then I think that it's just no shame around it. And then people can ask for help and then they can make a better choice because then more information will come out. There's more talk like this. Yeah,
And accept what somebody else may choose to do doesn't necessarily have to be the way that you choose to do it, but the more you know, that like you said, the better platform you have to make a decision on.
exactly. Exactly. And then like I said, I love podcasts. I think that because now we have podcasts, the information we can obtain
Mm-hmm.
is more accessible to all, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you can get all this information online, and you when you're driving,
Mm-hmm.
California, you pretty much drive everywhere, traffic. It was a great time to just listen to it, and you get the information. Like I said, like whatever, you never know whatever you said can change that person's life. And just
Mm-hmm.
like that girlfriend of mine, I still vividly remember the conversation we had. We were at the coffee shop. I was just a first year lawyer in this law firm in downtown LA, and I
Mm-hmm.
met her for coffee in Larchmont. This is how that little conversation we had have such a big impact to me. 20, 30 years, 20 years later, I started business with because of that. And then now my son is 9. And so I just think that, have all this information is always good, right? Because you go to many other countries where speech is limited. So freedom of speech, information
Mm-hmm.
limited. It's like, do we complain how bad our country is, but we also
We have no
forget how
idea.
much freedom we all have. Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea what it's like in other places. Were you born here? Were you born in the United
No,
States?
I came here when I was 12. I'm from Taiwan, but
Okay.
I studied in China, then I studied in London. So
Oh, beautiful.
I see like how people live in different country, not every country, but it's just funny to me that we always complain about our country, but if you really see like compared to other country, I'm really happy where I am. At least
Mm-hmm.
we don't have a bomb gonna throw out of the middle of nowhere, right? Our kids
Mm-hmm.
being taken away, when they're going some concert. At least I can sleep at night not thinking that, my house gonna be bomb.
Yeah.
We can have this conversation. We can express our opinion, and at least we have the medical technology that is available to us. Because in fact, in Asia, if you're not married, you can't even egg freeze. So I actually have a lot of clients often overseas just
Mm-hmm.
have the egg freeze. So
Wow.
that's the right that you have. That's
I mean, talk about government over interference in our daily lives. I don't. It almost this is something that I keep finding when when I talk about overregulation or anything like that. It forces people, good people, into making bad or illegal decisions. And by bad decisions, I mean if a woman can't conceive with her husband and realizes that it's him, what are her options in Asia? Stepping out on her husband if they want to have a child, or never having a child?
Exactly. So pretty much they have to come to US to do that. And then remember, our country also recognizing sex marriage, which is amazing. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome.
I
Is
agree.
love. But if you go to any other country, they don't even do surrogacy. And if the country they do surrogacy, they don't recognize same-sex marriage. So they won't do it or help couple that is in LGBTQIA community. So we're those couple who really wanted to be parents, they have nowhere to go, and
Well, and
it's like,
that gets back into the healthcare, insurance,
yeah,
affordability thing.
yes. And then for foreigners to come to United States and now California, because most of the state doesn't even do that, if they come to California, which is more liberal, the cost is so expensive, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
where they have the money for that. So,
Right. I mean, like it's hard in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things that could be done better. Let's be fair, but it could also be a lot worse.
yes, I totally agree with you. I always try to think the positive side of things, and then I know there's so many
Mm-hmm.
more we can improve on, but I just think that it's kind of how funny it is when people complain about here and there. it's all perspective. And then I think that is important to always have gratitude, because gratitude heart, and then you definitely see things differently.
So my kids are I was going to say 2 and 4. They're actually 3 and 5 now. And one of the
Oh,
things that we try to do every day, and my daughter told me last night, she was like, Mom, I was like, let's go to bed. You want me to rub your back? And she's like, I need to tell you what I'm grateful for. Because we do like a gratitude practice every night. What
right.
are you grateful for today?
Yes. Yeah.
And it really is that mindset. It's the difference between coming from a place of abundance and coming from a place of lack, right?
Totally.
However you see the world.
Yes.
And
Totally.
it's hard to change that pattern once you're in it.
Yeah.
I'm having a bad day. I need to sleep and reset because I can't shift right now.
Just sleep. And that's what I would say. When I'm in that mode, when I have a really bad day, I just like, okay, I'm just gonna call it the end of the night. I'm just gonna go sleep so I can get it. But then, people always say the way you see world is a reflection of you inner self. So I always make sure I have a good perspective, because when you have a good perspective of the thing, the more everything around you going to be good perspective, right? Because it's a mirror of you. So when you see negative stuff, everything going to be negative. So when people complain about this and this, you can find more to complain about. It's just like, people always give you an example of when you're buying a yellow car and suddenly you see everybody have a yellow car. It's the same concept. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important that you have that self-awareness piece, because I'm coming to understand that a lot of people either don't have an internal dialogue or don't have any self-awareness. And this is a whole new world for me, where what is so bad about taking a time out and stepping back away from your emotional reaction and just saying, that actually doesn't really impact me. I don't need to have such a strong feeling on that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that's okay. And that's totally okay. I think we get so much stimulation, social media, and then another thing we feel like we have to, especially for women, I think that we sacrifice based on the religions, the Mother Teresa, or like it's always about the mother figure that somehow
Yep.
ingrained to us, and our older generation, like advice. So we think that's the way it's supposed to be. And then we get guilty. We feel bad when we take any time for ourselves. But then just like when you go on the airplane, right? They always say you have to put the mask on before you put the mask for somebody else. So,
Exactly.
if I'm well, how am I going to take care of everybody else, right? It's just like, if I'm sick, I can't take care of my son because I'm probably going to pass it to him. It's worse. So, yeah, it's the same concept.
That kind of leads me into another question: is how do you take care of yourself? What you do is obviously highly emotional, and it's obviously highly connected to you, who you are, your purpose. How do you recharge and maintain and, keep yourself in balance?
I can tell you this. I don't watch TV. My house, there's no TV, because there's so many outside voices. I have enough inside voices already that I have to I can't deal with outside for like outside voices plus my own inside. And I wanted to pay more attention to what I'm saying inside, because that little whisper, I want to pay attention to what am I thinking, right? And then so we don't have TV at home. I wake up in the morning, I do meditation daily, so that's my must do, just to calm my, or at least to just watch my mind, my thought. It's always interesting. It's like, this thought keeping coming up. Why I have this thought? So I'm curious. I wanted to find out more about it. So meditation is a must thing to me. It's almost like going to gym. It's a working physically. I'm working mentally, and then go to the gym. I go for a run for like a half hour or 45 minutes, and then I'm back on work. And then there's always so many things you can do. So I always try to think top 5. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. It's hard sometimes to find something that always works. So it's nice to have a couple things that can kind of get you back into where you need to be. Sometimes I get so disjointed. I literally mean it when I say I need to go to bed and I come back like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we get into that case of the shoulds, right? Like I should do this or we should do that or I should feel like this or I should think like that. Have you had
I
mentors along?
because I've been living with should
Okay.
all my life, and then
Mm-hmm.
someone, a wise woman, I forgot who told me this. A wise woman told me, whenever it was a should, no. If it's
Yeah.
go align with your heart, you would just do it. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I am gonna do this. I am. But if it's like I should, it's not I am. It's not me.
That's actually valid, and I like that. That's a good takeaway for me. Because if it's something that I keep saying I should, it's definitely not I am, because if it was I am, I would just say I am.
Yeah, it's being. It's you. It's the inner you. So it should is not you. It should is whatever you think the outside, how you were raised, or what you're afraid of people are gonna say, or the image you have, whatever it is, it's external. It's not in, because when it's inside, it would be being. It would be me. I am. So that was my indicator whenever I said, "Oh, I know I should just call this person back." No,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to call, I will call. I am
Right.
gonna. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Is there another piece of information or a piece of advice that you would want to leave our listeners with today?
I would always say that follow your passion, because life is too short. And if you do everything based on what you should do, and
Mm-hmm.
then and trust me, I'm a victim of that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
done that all my life, because I don't know if the Asian cultural or the religious culture, I don't know the name. It's always like I should follow the rule, I should do this, I feel bad about karma, whatever. I can list
Yep.
all of that, everything that I should be doing. And then I realized they have their life. I have my life. And today, if this is my last day, I guarantee you none of this show would be the one that I feel like I need to do. And, I fly a lot with my friend, and they fly a really small plane. And most of my
Mm-hmm.
friends and my parents would be like, why would you go on that plane? What if you die? Because those planes never safe. And and then so I share with my friend who are pilot. I was like, did I ever scare you flying? And they're like, why? We're all gonna die. They have the point. We all gonna,
Valid.
right? It just matter of when. None of us know when we're gonna die, but we are gonna die. So my thinking is, okay, fine, if we're all gonna die, it doesn't matter when, or we don't know when. So if today is my last day, what would be the step that I haven't done? I will have any regret. So my thing I wrote to myself is that live my life to the fullest, and that's what I wrote every single day on my journal. Because to
Mm-hmm.
me, is if tomorrow is my funeral, do I have any regret? And what would people say about me? They would be like, "Wow, Evie really lived her life."
Mm-hmm. Took
That's all.
advantage of the opportunity to be alive.
Yeah, even
I think
just
that's
the
really good advice too.
Yeah, just the fact that me and you can have this conversation, like this is amazing. We're breathing, and we're sitting on
Mm-hmm.
a little space. We feel safe. We have this great conversation where many people don't have the freedom, or even have a home, or have a space or platform to do this. Or
Mm-hmm.
healthy breathing without any kind of support system. I get to experience as a mom. You get to experience as a mom. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like great.
It is. It's interesting, that perspective. I'm pretty existential myself. So, I'm always kind of thinking that I've dealt with a lot of anxiety, panic, depression throughout my life, and a lot of it stems from that particular topic. That, am I living my life in such a way that I would be proud of it, or that when I'm gone, the things that people will say about me are positive? Am I able to communicate clearly? What good am I putting back into the world? Because I am going to leave it at some point. Am I going to leave it with something good?
And you know how that fixed it, because I feel the same way. I'm like, oh my god, what people are gonna say when I die? And then someone told me, nobody give a crap when you die. There might be
It's true. Nobody.
nobody. They feel sad you died. They probably went to your funeral. 2 hours later, they're going to go back to their own life. They're having family dinner with their kids or whatever they're going to do. They worry about their next vacation. You are just laying on the ground with a tombstone. And that was it.
It's interesting when you start to put life into perspective like that. And I found most people don't do that. Most people cannot and will not confront the idea of their own mortality, whether they put together trusts or put together, things for the future, wills, whatever. They're not really confronting the idea. They're doing the things they think they need to do. And for some reason, people seem to think we get another try, another do-over. I don't know if it's video games. I couldn't even begin to guess what it is.
Yeah.
I try not to get too bogged down in it because it can be a real heavy thought. But I like the way that you think about it. How can we make this life a little bit better? While we've got it.
And then when we die, nobody cared. I mean, I nobody cared is they'd be sad, but if you love them, you want them to move on with life also. They're going to have their life like you have your life. So the question is, how would you like to spend your life while you're still here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate what you're doing and what you're giving back to the world and giving back to the community and joining us today. I love your perspective. And once the app goes live and you've had, gotten some time under your belt, I'd love to have another conversation about how it's working out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm so happy that we finally get to meet. And then next time when you're down here or I'm up there, we definitely should meet up for coffee and dinner. And
Most definitely.
This is like a little life pleasure for me to meet somebody where you can share about your thought and about life. And if our conversation can change anybody else, your listener, about their life perspective in a better way or positive way, hey, hallelujah, we did our job for the day.
Exactly. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their stories, wisdom, and breaking down barriers with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Your support means the world to me and helps spread the word about the amazing women paving the road less traveled in male-dominated industries. If you have suggestions for a future guest or topic you'd like me to explore, please reach out on social media. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on your favorite social platform for updates and behind the scenes. Keep pushing boundaries, challenging norms, and lifting each other up.